I was born in Durant, Oklahoma. I am the child of two public educators. My mother wound up being my kindergarten teacher. My dad was my superintendent for the younger years of my life. We essentially moved up the eastern corridor, as I like to think of it, of Oklahoma. So we went Durant, we went up to Tahlequah, we came back down to Ada, but then we went over to Morrison, Copan, and finally at the age of 9, moved to Norman. I was 7 walking down the middle aisle. I think it was St. John's in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. I was holding my candle and looking around to my left and right and thought, I think this is hilarious. I can't believe that people are bowing their heads. Like, what is this all about? And it was my first inclination to, I'm not really sure why we believe this. I've always had great experiences in church. I have predominantly stayed within the Episcopal faith, even though I've visited many other churches. But for me, I would definitely say I'm probably an agnostic. And that is after years of being atheist and trying to be a practicing Christian. I just don't find that church is where I get my religious experience. For me, it is through art. And when I came to understand that, particularly the theater, I started to realize what arts do for me in the sense of connecting me to other people, understanding their truths, and also understanding myself better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually a third generation Oklahoman on both sides of my family, and that is all that was ever discussed at the dinner table. And so in truth, I've never desired to leave Oklahoma. I never intended to work in higher ed nor to work at the University of Oklahoma. I was at Oklahoma State University, and it was right after I graduated. And in, let's see, it would have been January of 2000, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was stage 3, and my brother was 16 at the time. So Cody and I made the quick decision, really without any need to reflect, that we would return once our contracts were done at OSU. And so actually Dean Lisa Portwood here in University College, I called on her and some other friends and said, hey, I'm coming back to Norman, and in truth, I just need work because my primary focus will be assisting in my mother's treatments. So word spread, and there was a summer advising position here in University College. And so I participated in that. Things were settling in. We were about halfway through treatments with Mom that summer of 2000. And I thought, okay, do I want to go substitute? I had my teaching certificate. Do I want it? No, I'm not really interested in that. And the next thing I know, I get a call, hey, there's going to be an advising job opening in communication. You'd be great for the startup / you've been trained. So I landed that job. And then a few years later, some great mentors in advising said, you can't stay in this. You have to go try something else. You can come back, but I love it. Blah, blah, blah. Nope, you got to go. Okay, so, and those were actually folks still in University College. And so I put out feelers again, and the next thing I knew, I was the director, I guess at that time it was center coordinator of Couch Residence Hall. We still had a building of Cross, and they had started the Safe Walk program. So when I was hired, I had 48 staff members. I have more now with all of you, but that was quite something for a first-time manager. 3 GAs and these eyes all looking at me and going, okay. And when I had worked in housing, I'd been a programmer. I was never an RA. Cody was an RA. So here we go down this journey, and 2 years later, I opened Traditions East in 2005. That makes me feel old. It's now like 10 years. And then I was promoted to associate director, so I oversaw the RE training class, the HCSA group, leadership group down there. Had a blast. Was in that role for I guess it was 6-7 years. It was assistant, associate, throughout that time. And then I got a call from University College to come back, and it was actually for the position I said I would only consider if offered. And I don't know if I said that very clearly. So it was, the position was downstairs, the Center for Student Advancement. I have a passion for students who are struggling because it has nothing to do with their brains. And it probably has nothing to do with their passion. There's just other things at play. And working out those life details, figuring some things out and going for it, it's like at 180 every time. Or you go somewhere else that's going to serve your needs better than higher ed. And so I oversaw the strategies class for a couple of years, and then the deans approached me about overseeing the Student Learning Center. And so I would say through that thread, there's always been an element of creating community, an element of empowering students to do their best and discover themselves. And I've always been empowered by others to do that. describe the Student Learning Center as a free space where all students are welcome to engage in their classroom material with other peers and potentially faculty who guide that learning. Institutions, especially public education institutions, are not being funded, and that gravely concerns me about the value that we think as a society that education plays into our entire culture. Yeah, I would definitely say that school is home and home is school to me. There's no delineation of what that is. We're always in a space of learning, and especially in higher education where people come from so many different backgrounds. I always want to learn from them, and it really gave me my earliest understanding of cultural relativism, that there are multiple truths and multiple ways to live. And I think it empowered me indirectly to go, well, I don't believe in this, or I don't believe in that. For example, I'm honestly a marriage dissenter. I think it's a contract. It's all about property. I already belong to one patriarchy. I don't need another one. And I was very fortunate with my late husband that he respected that and understood that. And we were very open with each other and committed to being partners. And then as we decided in our early 30s that we thought we might want to start a family, we did believe at that time that we should get things legally in order so there would be no question if there were ever problems. Who are we to realize that that would become medically necessary for his own terminal illness later? I think another situation when I have felt probably empowered, there's so many good people in our lives, right, that give us that space to do it. It's probably when I first started teaching clarinet lessons. After, a couple of years and getting a little more comfortable with how a lesson really worked from the teacher's chair, I started realizing, wow, I am genuinely influencing the individuals in front of me as to what kind of musicians they're going to become. More importantly, though, what kind of people they're going to become. My dissertation is actually a combination of educational studies, ethnomusicology, and the philosophy of education. So I brought it full circle, and I'm also being able to study cultures and individuals that are of great interest to me, which is undergraduate students. And so I'm looking at undergraduates like yourself in different spaces around campus where they are creating their own music. The Crimson Chords, the Native American Student Association, the gentleman or woman in the union playing the piano, same on the first floor of the residence halls. Why are they doing this? What's the importance to them? So that we can learn and in a way kind of break this Western classical art curriculum that makes you a musician. So my husband and I met when we were students at OU. I was his boss in Adams Residence Hall. He never let me forget that. And when you meet people and you just know you connect well, both friendship to romantic, platonic to romantic, you just kind of know. And so we began our journey together, and that was in '99. And then in 2011, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. He had an existing condition that made him more likely to develop esophageal, but you will never know oftentimes with cancer what that was. So he fought very hard for 27 months and endured things that I could never experience, including an esophagectomy and more rounds of chemo than any normal human should ever take. But we were treated at the Stevenson Cancer Center, and we had two fortunes that were behind us. One, it opened literally the month that he was diagnosed, and two, we have many family and friends both associated with OU as well as in the medical field. So we knew it was the right place for Cody to receive his treatment. And literally in that building, you do everything from your blood work to your exams to meeting with your doctor, et cetera, et cetera. And we sat through many a chemo appointment and listened to other families just talking. And we realized again how blessed we were. We have always jokingly said that we carried Cadillac insurance. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, and we learned through that journey that you got to be smart and be prepared. So we had very few truly medical bills, very few, very very doable. And when we heard other people talking around us, making choices about dance lessons or food, we just thought, okay, we talked a lot about that. So, flash forward, his family deserves the credit for doing the very first Cody's run. Cody was one of 31 first cousins, if that gives you an idea on the family size. And that was just the matriarchy. So, huge family. If ever you run into somebody from Ardmore, Oklahoma, ask them if they know Cody Ponder or the Vernons, and you are likely to get a yes. He even lived around the corner from my aunt, an older aunt of mine when I was younger. So they're just a very connected family. And so then the next year we brought it to OU, friends and family. Cody passed in that year between the first and the second annual, and we all just decided that OU was the place to hold this. And Cody said, I know there will be likely something you'll want to do, family will want to do, to remember. But he said, I've already done what I wanted to do. I worked with a research institution so they could learn from my experience, and hopefully it will help others. That was just the kind of person he was. And as I thought back on that, as you're in the grieving process, the helping others kept coming up over and over again. And he was, I think it was assistant director of CART and was the grant specialist for that. And so when Cody and I would always have our wonderful conversations, it always went back to how much he liked to help other people.